a well-fed pet who gets everything right nutritionally is a happy pet, is a pet who does not fall sick, and ultimately we as pet parents also derive maximum joy from pet parenting. So let's begin with our webinar today. Importance of nutrition in dog food. So before we try to understand nutrition for dogs, we really need to understand who really dogs are. Were they hunters, or are they still hunters? Are they settled wanderers because they are domesticated now? What is their gene line, and who have been their ancestors? Answers to these questions will help us understand their diet and nutrition. When we talk about gene line and ancestors, we are inherently talking about the genetic makeup of dogs. And this is not the only thing that affects the diet of any species for that matter. Lifestyle also matters a lot. For example, for us human beings, our genetic makeup is quite similar to that of monkeys, apes. But that alone cannot determine our diet. Our lifestyle also determines our diet and nutrition. Similarly, so for dogs, we need to know their genetic makeup as well as their lifestyle. So when we talk about genetic makeup, we talk about who have been the ancestors of dogs, or whoever lies in their lineage, not just vertically but also horizontally, which comes when we talk about horizontally, like their cousins. Maybe it could be foxes or other animals who are similar to dogs. And when we talk about lifestyle, it is affected by more than one factor. Evolution definitely has an impact on the lifestyle of dogs, because from living in forests, from hunting, now they have been living in proximity of mankind for over 20,000 years. And this change in their lifestyle has caused them to evolve into slightly different animals than what they were maybe 20,000-30,000 years ago. Not just that, man has also done a lot of genetic excuse me. Man has done a lot of genetic interference also with dogs, for breeding them for the desired, sometimes for the desired appearance, sometimes for the desired function. So when we talk about ancestors of dogs, what pet industry and media is really propagating these days is that wolves are the ancestors of dogs, and this is what wolves have been eating: raw flesh, fish. They are carnivores, and therefore dogs should also be fed like carnivores. What is not right in this, calling dogs as carnivores, being wolves being ancestors of dogs, is that this is not what has been shared. While wolves are definitely hunters, but a lot of their diet also comprises of fruit and vegetable matter. In fact, you might want to take a search on National Geographic Channel's website, and if you go on searching about wolves, you will find videos of wolves feasting on berries, such as the top right image on the screen in front of you. So in fact, wolf watchers have seen that wolves eat as much as 60% of their diet as berries in the summer, because that is what is widely grown in the forests where wolves are native to. So coming back to whether dogs are carnivores or not, going by these facts, it's not really right to call dogs as carnivores, just going by the fact that wolves are their ancestors and they are carnivores, so they should be fed like carnivores, just raw meats. We must remember that wolves also eat these plant and vegetable matter. So this is just an overview of the change in the lifestyle of dogs. Just to summarize, so dogs have been living in close proximity of mankind. They have been domesticated for over 20,000 years. And over this period of time, they have adapted to a little bit of foods that mankind has been feeding them. And when dogs started to live in proximity of mankind, Man also fed them, table scraps, which would often include grains such as bread or rice. And over 20,000 years of these feeding practices, now dogs do release amylase. It is an enzyme that helps digest starch. So, over the process of evolution and genetic intervention, today dogs have turned into adept omnivores. They can digest plant matter also. However, there lies some conditions in how we are supposed to feed that plant matter to dogs. We cannot feed them certainly salads, but yeah, if it is cooked, it is served well, then they can do well on an omnivore diet. Coming to key aspects of dog nutrition, what all is really important in a dog's diet? Protein, definitely yes, and fat, yes. So dogs should ideally derive a lot of their energy from protein and fat. Carbohydrates are not so important, especially in case of growing pups or in case of sporting dogs or performance dogs. So protein and fat should be there in sufficient quantities in a dog's food. Fat is something which is often overlooked in a dog's diet, especially in a homemade diet. People, what they generally do is they mix up some roti, sabzi, and maybe some leftover vegetables, and that is all that they feed to their dogs. And especially in India, where a lot of households are vegetarians, we forget to add some fat to their dog's diet. Whereas dogs, if they are being fed chicken or meats naturally have a lot of oil, a lot of fat in the tissues. So when dogs are being fed a vegetarian diet, fat is something that generally gets missed in a dog's diet. While fat is very important because fat helps absorb fat-soluble vitamins, fats help in hormonal regulation, fats also form the outer layer of the cells in the body. So fats are very important. And when we talk about fats, another thing which is very important is omega-6 to omega-3 fatty acid ratio. This has special importance in dog food because dogs are prone to inflammatory responses. A lot of you pet parents must be saying that your dog might be suffering from skin allergies. A lot of that happens because the omega-6 to omega-3 ratio in the food is not right. Foods are naturally very rich in omega-6. Where we need to balance a dog's food is with omega-3s. The difference between these two fatty acids is that omega-6 are pro-inflammatory. They help in bringing an immune response of the body, which is inflammation. For example, if a tick bites the dog somewhere, so to repair that part, the body will automatically create an immune response of inflammation. Inflammation means nothing but raising the temperature of that local area in the body, because of which the microbes cannot survive and they die away. And omega-3s are anti-inflammatory. So when we are continuously feeding a food which is always rich in omega-6 and not rich in omega-3, dogs tend to have inflammatory issues such as skin issues primarily, and arthritis, and so on. Calcium is again it's quite important in a dog's diet because we are not feeding bones to our dogs. So where is the calcium coming from? Sometimes people say that they feed curd, but that is not enough because the density of a dog's bones are the bone density in dogs is much more than that in human beings. And lastly, moisture. A lot of pet parents end up feeding dry dog food, but moisture is very important in dog food because imagine us eating dry food every day. Water is required to break down the food, to assimilate the nutrition derived from the food. It is very hard to digest completely dry meals for your dogs. So, coming back to the importance of nutrition, if you feed your dog well, you'll have a longer living dog. The dog will have better digestion because good quality, well prepared food will be easy to digest, and there will be better elimination. Both of these will also lead to better immunity, which means your dog will fall sick very less, and ultimately a happy dog. It also means that you will be incurring less vet bills and less vet visits. So when we talk about commercial foods, These are certain drawbacks of commercial foods. They do lack moisture, which means they also increase body heat because there is no moisture. They are fat sprayed because how do these companies make their food palatable for dogs? So these foods are sprayed with fats which are addictive. They also have a lot of additives such as preservatives, dyes, stabilizers, anti-caking agents. Anti-caking agents are chemicals which keep the product intact and prevent it from falling apart. So kibbles comes in the shape of small balls, so the balls retain their shape and they do not fall apart. These are anti-caking agents. So they do consist of certain dyes and colors which is why the look of the food is so consistent, which is not always the case in fresh food. Fresh food will always vary in its shade or color, but that doesn't happen with commercial dry foods. They often lead to skin diseases because, again, lack of moisture, and also because they are old foods. Improper storage. So a lot of us we buy dry dog foods, but we do not know how to store them. Usually the bag is lying open somewhere. It is open to oxidative damage. It is open to moisture catching, and it invariably develops mold, and we are feeding food from that bag to our dogs every day. How many of us store our commercial dry foods in an airtight jar? Ideally, a small pack should be bought, which minimizes the oxidative damage and also moisture exposure of the food. And lastly, mostly these foods have camouflage labeling. We're going to talk about camouflage labeling. Misleading labeling in dog foods. First of all, in our country, there is no regulation in pet food labeling. So there is no watchdog for pet food companies. For whatever they are making, whatever they are writing on the food packs, there is no regulation, there is no watchdog, there is no regulatory authority. So it actually lies on the pet parents to see the quality of the food that is being served to their pets. Which is why I would say fresh foods are far more better than feeding these foods, because you can actually see what is going into your dog's meal. A lot of commercial foods have the label mentioned meat meals. Now this is a very misleading nomenclature. To a layman, it would mean that okay, it's a meal to be fed to dogs made out of meal. Whereas if you go into the technical definition of meats versus meat meals refers to anything which does not include actually the whole meat of the animal concerned. Such as, for example, if you're talking about chicken meat meal, so it would have tissues or hair, rumen, and even some stomach contents coming from the chicken. But all of these things, but the flesh of the chicken. So this is what a chicken meal would be. Whereas a layman would feel that okay, chicken meal in this commercial dog food, okay, so it has a lot of chicken. No. These food packets also mention crude protein. So crude protein actually refers to the minimum amount of protein that is lab verifiable. It does not in any way talk about the bioavailability of the protein for the dog. For example, if it contains meat meal, it would be having hair, rumen, tissues, and even some nails of the animals. All of them contain protein. Our nails here also contain protein. So lab verify, when we talk about verification through labs, the foods will have protein and that number will be mentioned in the crude protein. But it does not talk about the quality of protein. Is it really good for your dog? Can it be digested by your dog? No, we don't know. A lot of pet foods have slaughterhouse waste. They do not have human grade ingredients. And lastly, balanced meals. The name balanced meals is often misused and used without substance. Coming to what is something that is becoming really popular today, raw diets for dogs. I'm not a propagator of raw diets. Even in my diet plans, I never really give raw diet plans because of certain drawbacks which are not so popularly discussed. One of them is if you really go into the technical research aspect of raw diets, you don't really come across a lot of scientific research. It has become more popular on hearsay than on actual substance scientific research documents. Raw diets are very rich in fat and protein, and in a lot of cases they can really impact the kidneys and the liver, especially if your dog's kidney and liver are already affected. In those cases, raw diet is a big no, and it cannot be fed to senior dogs because it would affect their organs a lot. One very big risk that is associated with raw diets is that of zoonotic diseases. Zoonotic diseases are those diseases that can be transferred from animals to human beings. A simple example is rabies. If a rabid dog bites a human being, that human being will contract rabies. So rabies is a zoonotic disease. But biting is not the only way that human beings can get diseases from animals. We can also get those diseases from animals while we are kissing our pets, or through the bacteria or these parasites which they shed in their feces or skin scrapings. And it is very risky, especially because pets, we keep pets in our houses, and we also, a lot of houses we have small children, and children are in such close proximity of the pets that they are exposed to the danger of zoonotic diseases, especially if the pet is on raw food, because when the food is raw, meats, they will have some sort of bacterial or any sort of infestation, pathogen infestation, and they also have some parasites which do not get killed, and because the meats are not getting cooked. And so if your animal is if your pet is ingesting these raw meats, then definitely he's exposing you're exposing your pet to the risk of these diseases, and ultimately your family to zoonotic diseases. So some of these pathogens such as Salmonella, E. coli, they can cause kidney and liver damage in human beings. Raw diets cannot be fed to senior dogs, as I mentioned before, and so this is a bit something I picked up. I thought it will help us understand zoonosis better. So zoonotic diseases are once again spread from animals to humans, and if you see that over 150 zoonotic diseases worldwide are transmitted to humans by both wild and domesticated animals. So this is an aspect of raw diets which is not being touched by industry leaders, by a lot of nutritionists in the field today. But I feel when we're talking about anything related to our pets, both pros and cons must be discussed and must be brought on the table. This is something that has been largely missing, and I thought that this must be shared with pet parents, because a lot of pet parents have queries and are inclined towards raw diets these days. When we come to home cooked meals, they're certainly better than kibbles. They're certainly better than raw diets, provided they are balanced and they are properly formulated. If they are just fed to dogs without adequate guidance, then they can have some drawbacks, such as lack of adequate protein or fat. As I mentioned before, especially vegetarian foods, definitely they will lack protein, and they will also lack fat, because a lot of pet parents do not know that if we are feeding a vegetarian homemade meal to our dog, then we need to add some oil on top, and how much is a matter of decision based on the caloric intake of your dog. They generally lack balanced macronutrients and calcium again, because maybe bones are not being fed. So these are a few drawbacks, but they can certainly be rectified either by designing the diet properly, or you can go for well designed dog foods available in the market. And when we come to talking about natural treating options for dogs, because a lot of pet parents ask me that, okay, what are natural treating options? How can I treat my dog at home? They don't want to buy preservative and chemical laced treats. So apples are great, bananas are great, peanut butter is very good, especially for vegetarian dogs, because it contains a lot of protein and also fatty acids. And single ingredient dehydrated treats are also very good for your dogs, because they're single ingredient, they do not have low quality ingredients, and they also have your dog has less chances of developing any allergy, and even if he does, you would know, okay, so the single ingredient, and there are no additives, and obviously home baked treats. So these are some safe and good treating options for your dogs. And this was all from my side that I had, but please feel free to ask me your questions now.
Hey Geet, Pooja here. Hi. Just wanted to ask, what are some good sources of omega-3? I mean, if you could just give me examples of what I can feed my dog for omega-3.
So very good sources of omega-3 are seeds, especially flax seeds and chia seeds, and also fish. I wouldn't recommend fish oil because omega-3 fatty acids are very brittle compounds. So if the oil is extracted and kept in a bottle, it is likely to get damaged through exposure to light or heat or even to air. So I would recommend giving omega-3 in the form of whole fish rather than extracted fish oil, or flax seeds, chia seeds, or even ghee. Ghee is also a good source of omega-3 fatty acids.
Oh, nice. I was about to get that. Just wanted to check about ghee because my dog strangely likes ghee.
Dogs do love dairy. So
yeah,
it's not a surprise. They like ghee.
Okay. No. My mom once mentioned that dogs shouldn't be eating ghee, which is something that I think a lot of people believe it's a myth. But I was a little surprised, and I wanted to. That was my next question, but you answered it. Thank you.
Hi. My dog. Hi. So my dog is a very picky eater. So what sort of nutritious food would you think she like? Because we have tried peanut butter with her, and she does not like the taste of it. We've tried apples, we've tried bananas.
How did you try the apples?
We cut it into small pieces. We tried mixing it with her treats. We tried putting some oil, which she seems to like, on her, which was recommended by her vet, but she did not respond well to it.
Okay. What is the breed?
She's a lab.
Oh, that's strange. Labs love to eat.
We've been told that.
Yeah. So what you can do is try changing the texture of the food. For example, if you've given her raw apples, make it into an apple puree. Just cook the apples. Core them, decore them, peel them, put them in a cooker, give them a pressure, and once an apple sauce is kind of, a saucy kind of texture comes in, then mash them and then put some ghee on top of them. So she might like it then. So many times dogs prefer a change in the texture, and sometimes dogs are, they don't like eating at a time when there is a lot of hustle and bustle in the house. So try to feed your dog when there is a calm environment. And what you can also do is make the meal times interesting for your dog. Instead of putting the food easily accessible into the bowl of the dog, what you can do is get for example, a slow feeder, or get a food puzzle. Or what you can even do is, whatever is her favorite food or she likes, you can hide it at different spots, and she has to spot them and find them and eat them. So many times dogs like it that way.
Yeah, okay. That's a great idea. We'll definitely try that. Thank you so much.
You're welcome. So any other questions?
So Geet, Mr. Arun Dubey is with us. He had a question about the difference between frozen food and thaw food, and what are the disadvantages of the same?
By frozen food, do you mean freeze-dried? Or do you mean frozen because...
Freeze-dried.
Okay, so freeze-dried is not really frozen food. So, freeze-dried is nothing but something that basically the food is dried out using some using technique. I'm not really clear on that, but with thaw what happens is the food that is frozen in your freezer, you put it out and you wait for the food to become not frozen and a little soft, so that you can feed it to your dog. So freeze dried is basically just a technique that gives a longer shelf life to the food. In fact, a lot of dog companies are also giving freeze dried foods these days. How it is actually done, I'm missing it. I can't remember it properly. Yeah, but if you're talking about how to thaw the food, make sure that when you take out the food from your freezer, you do not thaw it on the shelf. Put it back into the fridge only to minimize exposure to or minimize the growth of bacteria in the food.
Okay, got it. Thank you so much, Geet. The next question is from Priyanka. Mrs. Priyanka owns a German Shepherd. She would like to ask the next question.
Yeah.
Hi.
Hi.
What are the common signs to look for if my pet is not getting the required nutrition?
There are so many. For example, lethargy is one. Hair fall is another. Your dog could be getting some skin diseases also. That is also because of the dogs get skin diseases because of lack of protein or fat. Hair fall usually happens because of lack of calcium, lack of protein also, and sometimes lack of vitamin D also. So lethargy and hair fall and skin and coat is something that you should check the first. And you can also check the skin of your dog, if your dog's skin is pliable or not. Pliable means that when you pull up the skin of your dog, does it fall back at the same place quickly or does it take time? This is a sign. This is a way to check whether your dog is getting adequate moisture in the diet or not. If the dog is getting ample moisture, then the skin will fall back quickly, otherwise it won't. And then dog poop is also one of the way. If your dog is eliminating every day, very good. If he's not eliminating every day, then either there is a lack of fat in his food or the food is dry. And maybe it needs a little bit of fiber also, but that I can suggest only when I know the diet of your dog, that what is really missing in your dog's diet. So yeah, these are a few indicators that you can check.
Thank you.
Hi Geet, this is Arun. I have a lab girl, Bella. I have two questions, Geet. One, before this, I have not tried home cooked meal. Since last 1 year, she's on home cooked meal. And there was a deworming schedule which I followed. She was typically on, all my dogs typically had been on dry food like pedigrees and RCs and others. And I've never had a case of a bad worm incidents. But with Bella, when I transitioned, I followed.
Bad case of?
The worm infestation in the stomach and intestine.
Okay.
I used to generally follow a 60 days deworming or a 60, 65, 70 days deworming schedule. With Bella, I continued the same after switching to a home cooked meal, but we had a very severe worm infestation incident where she started pooping blood for a bit. We could quickly treat it and understand the cause, and vet has recommended a deworming period of 30 days if I am feeding a home cooked meal, which was, I'm not sure how should we sort of think about it, what's the right practice here.
Okay. So, number one, it's not necessary that she got the worm infestation from the home food only, because dogs, when they go out for walks also, they sniff and they lick. So she could have picked it up from anywhere. It's not really necessary that she got it from home food. Rather, home food is better than any packet, like a dry dog food. And it's not even necessary that it could be a worm infestation. It could be a case of gastritis also. In that case also, dogs poop blood. If she has severe acidity or in certain case of diarrhea also. That's my take on this. Generally, you can try, if you want to start giving her pumpkin seeds at least 3 to 4 times a week. Yes,
thanks, Geet. I think this was helpful to know. So, Geet, my second question is regarding training treats. Typically, I reserve around 1/4 to 1/3 of my dog's meal for training, which we do multiple times in a day.
Right.
What I'm struggling with is that in a home cooked meal, I don't want to use commercial treats or dry fruit for training. But the home cooked meal doesn't give me many options other than sausages if I cut them, and we don't cook meat at home, so that becomes a little bit of an issue. So I'm struggling to find high reward quality treats in which my dog would perceive as high reward. She prefers meat based treats versus fruit based treats.
Okay.
What's your advice there? Are there any brands or are there any general food available out there which I can use, which are safe and healthy?
See, if you talk about dehydrated treats for this purpose, I mean, like you want to feed high quality treats, so dehydrated meats are an option, but then the caloric intake would be too high because it's just
They're
pure
also too hard. When a dog works in a drive, they gulp.
Yes.
And it has to be a soft treat.
Yes. Okay, you're looking for meat-based treats. I'm not aware of brands, but yeah, I do customize. So maybe you can check with me later on, or maybe some other people around your. I'm not really aware of brands into this, but I can watch out for you and maybe get back to you on this.
Sure. Thank you.
Okay, Geet, Mr. SG has a question. He owns a 16-month-old Labrador Retriever, and what he understands is fresh food and home-made food is the best option available for pets. So, what are some guidelines that he could be provided with?
So he needs guidelines as to how to make a homemade food better.
Because home-cooked fresh food is the only good option he finds. What are the brands available? How he can proceed with it? Is home cooked a better option for the pet?
Okay, so Mom&Paw is certainly a great brand for this. I'm not aware of many brands in this area, but yeah, I am quite sure. And depending on your dog's liking, pick up the food, have recipes for a variety. And if you're making it at home, then do make sure it has a good amount of fat in it. If you're feeding depending on your dog's weight and his caloric requirement, the right amount of protein through chicken or mutton, whatever. You rotate the sources, add some omega-3 and you can even add turmeric. So the dog's meal should be a mix of a little bit of protein source, a bit of fat, and some vegetable and stuff like that. Yeah, and if you don't want to take that hassle, you can get the food from Mom&Paw. Yeah.
Okay, thank you so much, Geet.
Next question, Ravi.
Yes, Pragati is asking that she is a pet parent of a Chow Chow and a Cocker Spaniel. Her doubt is that a small quantity of spices like ginger, cinnamon or clove are safe to be fed to the pets.
Yes, it is safe. Small quantities are safe, but these are all very warming spices. So if you're living in a warmer region, you should not feed these to your dog every day. Ginger is especially good if your dog is having any respiratory issue or digestion issue. Then it's fine. Otherwise, you can feed them like twice a week, but there's no need to feed all of these spices every day. And the quantity really matters, because if the ginger is a little higher than for a small dog, Cocker Spaniel and Chow Chow, they're not very big dogs, so it can cause heartburn also in dogs. So ginger should be especially used with caution.
Okay, thank you so much, Geet. The next question is...
Sorry, can I also add, if you're looking for dog safe spices, then you can go for things like turmeric, cumin, and even mint, it's a herb, and fennel. Yeah, these are dog safe. And they can be used regularly.
Okay, I hope that Ms. Pragati, your question has been answered. So the next question is from Mr. Abdus. He owns a golden retriever. Mr. Abdus, you can ask the next question, please.
Okay.
Hi, Ms. Rao. Ma'am, so since our webinar, like you were talking about,
Yes, raw
is,
food. Okay.
is raw food good for dogs, or like do we have to cook it? And when sometimes the raw food can cause problems in dogs. In that case, we have to sometimes, especially meat, when it comes to meat, we'll have to cook it.
Yeah.
And in that case, a lot of nutrients are lost. So is there any way that we can prevent the nutrient loss, something like that? Or are there any products that are available?
See, loss, definitely it happens, but also for anything for that matter, we need to balance out the pros and the cons. So as I mentioned, there are a lot of risks associated with raw feeding also, because especially in India, we do not have very good distribution and storage facility. The food would be getting thawed in the freezer of your distributor itself. And so I don't really recommend raw foods for that matter. When you talk about supplements, whether or not the food is cooked, supplements are often given to dogs, especially things like calcium supplement, vitamin D supplement, because most dogs are indoor dogs today, so they lack vitamin D as well. And if your dog really needs any supplement or not, you can tell by the behavior of your dog, by the look of your dog, by his pooping, by his coat health, skin and coat condition. So all these things, they also help you determine how much your dog is, in need of any additional supplements. If the food is wholesome, if it is, it doesn't matter if it is cooked, if it is made in the, because see, when we formulate a diet, when we talk about, okay, does this has this much of protein or whatever, ingredients, we always, in those calculations, we take the values of the cooked foods, whether it is cooked meat. I mean, this I'm cooked, professionally designed diets. So, for example, I design diets. So wherever we do that, we take the values of cooked foods. So what you're talking about, that it loses some nutrition, that is already accounted for in a properly formulated diet. But yeah, with the home cooked food, you can go for supplements like ZipFit. ZipFit is I think by Intas, and it is easily available online, and it is an amino acid and multivitamin supplement. So you can never really determine which vitamin is missing and which is not, because we feed such a variety of foods to our dogs at home. It's hard to determine the nutritional profile of the food. So as a safe bet, you can feed a multivitamin and an amino acid supplement to your dogs.
Thank you so much, ma'am.
You're welcome.
Okay, Geet, the next question is from Miss Ananya. She's asking that, can dogs eat all seafood, or is there any things that are supposed to be considered, or anything which is supposed to be avoided in seafood?
With seafood, the risk of mercury intoxication comes in, because seawater is, all the sea animals, they have high levels of mercury in them. So that is a risk. That is why freshwater fish is generally recommended for dogs. Otherwise, the advantage of seafood is that it is very rich in omega-3. Things like krill oil, fish oil these days are being propagated. Instead of the oils, you should feed the whole, sea animal. Maybe it's the fish or the whole form. And if it is, it should not risk of mercury intoxication associated with it. So for omega-3s, you would rather feed a freshwater fish.
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome.
Okay, so the next question is from Mr. Tarak. He is mentioning that pet is diagnosed with tumor on spleen. So what are the different diet plans or any recommendation that is supposed to be given to the pet in terms of food?
The food should be high on omega-3s, and it should be high on antioxidants. So feed a lot of, you need to boost the immunity of your dog. feed things like blueberries. If you can feed Indian gooseberry in any form, you can feed that food. Feed as much fresh food as possible. Feed good quality fats. Put coconut oil, put ghee, put flax seeds, chia seeds, all of these roasted and maybe slightly ground. So these are the oils are a source of good fat, and usually in case of tumors, a diet with a higher fat ratio is recommended. So you have to take care of these things. There should be a good amount of fat in the diet, a lot of antioxidants, and omega 3s. A lot of omega 3s in the diet. Yeah.
Okay, we hope, Mr. Tarak, your question has been answered. So Geet, the next set of questions have come from our subscribers. There are a lot of people who ask whether our fresh food could be fed along with a dry food. So such combination on a longer run is something which is good for the pet, or they should be uniformly kept on one type of food.
You mean to say fresh food and
Dry food.
like home cooked food along with kibble?
Correct.
So I understand that kibble is it becomes a necessity for many pet parents because of paucity of time or whatever. So you can continue that, but I would say that you can reform the kibble. There's a kibble reformation that you can do. You can either make vegetable purees in your home. Just grab 2-3 seasonal vegetables, put them in a blender, puree them, and cook them on a stove. So your vegetables will be cooked, and store them in your refrigerator for 2 to 3 days. A batch of puree for 2 to 3 days, and then you can microwave these purees a bit before feeding it to your dog, and then soak the kibble in this. So what you're doing is, one thing, you're adding a bit of fresh food to your dog's food. Second, you're also hydrating the food. It's not a completely dry meal anymore. What you can also do is reduce the quantity of kibble a bit and soak it in the purees and top it with some fresh fat like coconut oil or ghee or olive oil, whatever, and you can rotate these oils. So kibble has some fat in it as well. So why I'm saying that we should reduce the kibble is because the fat will add on to the calories. The calories from vegetables are going to be negligible, but when you add oil, it will give a good amount of calories. So accordingly, you also need to reduce the quantity of kibble, otherwise your dog will start gaining weight. And you can also put some toppers like maybe blueberries or stuff like that. So these are, they will not take away the convenience of feeding a kibble on the go, but also give your kibble a makeover so that it is hydrated and more healthy than just being the normal dry kibble.
Okay, got it, Geet. I hope this is helpful for all the pet parents who have joined us. We are taking the last question because we are running out of time. So Ms. Bhavika is asking this question that are there any particular fruits or vegetables that are safe to be fed to pugs in particular?
Not really. You just need to see that your dog should not be allergic to anything. And a lot of sweet fruits are not safe for dogs, like grapes you cannot feed. Apples, they must be de-seeded because the seeds can be toxic for dogs. Bananas are very good. So generally strawberries, all kind of, don't feed too sweet foods like leaves or mangoes or grapes. So these are the foods that I would suggest. And Gauravi, there was another question from the questionnaires about hemp.
Yes, correct.
Yeah, so I mean, I have noted 2-3 questions. It's okay, I can respond to them if the pet parents want to know. I've noted down those questions.
Sure. You can share some insights on that.
So should I just quickly? Yeah. So one question was: is hemp oil good? Is hemp oil good for dogs or not? So hemp is becoming definitely very popular. But when I looked into this oil, I find that flax seeds oil or chia oil, when you talk, hemp seeds also when you talk about, so flax seeds or chia seeds are way better over hemp seeds, because why hemp is being propagated is for its omega-3 content. But when you talk about the ratio of omega-3 to omega-6, flax seeds and chia seeds have a far better ratio. I mean, higher the, they, for example, flax seeds, I have the figures noted with me. They have the ratio of omega-6 to omega-3 fatty acids of 1:4. That means for 1 unit of omega-6, flax seeds have 4 units of omega-3 in there. Hemp, it's far low. They have just, as I told you in the beginning of the webinar also, omega-6s are pro-inflammation and omega-3s are anti-inflammatories. So any seed which has a higher amount of omega-3 will be more anti-inflammatory, and which is what we are looking for our dogs. So flax seeds and chia seeds have a higher ratio of omega-3s as compared to hemp seeds. Therefore, they are better anti-inflammatory agents than hemp seeds. So I thought like a lot of people have this question. Maybe the pet parents have thought about this or not, but I thought I must share this with pet parents.
Correct. Thank you so much on this. Is there any other question that you want to write
on? Someone had asked about food for senior dogs. So senior dogs should be fed foods which are low in sodium, because if the food is high on sodium, it creates a higher blood pressure, which puts pressure on the heart. So they should be low in sodium. The weight of the senior dog must be watched out for. Must be checked that the dog is diabetic or not. Generally, if the dog is senior and also diabetic, it should have low glycemic index grains. Low glycemic index grains are grains which do not suddenly shoot up the sugar level in the blood. So something like brown rice over white rice. So these are a few things that should be taken care of, and senior dogs should never be fed raw food. So yeah, I think these were only the questions. And I missed the question. Actually, I had written something about thaw, but I hadn't written about freeze drying, and I want to apologize that I wasn't very thorough on that one. But I'll look up and share it with the concerned pet parents about the freeze dried thing. Actually, I've read up on it, but I'm missing it right now. I can't
Not a problem.
recall it.
Not a problem. We'll help the pet parent from our end as well. So I think, is anybody having any questions? You can just unmute and ask, because we are just about to wrap up the session. So I think, Geet, that's all from the pet parents who have joined in. Thank you so much for taking out some time and helping all our pet parents. It was a pleasure to have you with us. And the whole team of Mom&Paw is
Thank you.
We are looking forward to work with
Thank you for having me.
Yes.
Thank you so much.
Thank you so much, Geet. So I request all the pet parents that they can log off from here. Thank you so much for joining us.